1995, Nintendo was hard at work on the Nintendo 64. Multiple games were in development, and because of this console's polygon-pushing capabilities, multiple franchises were making their transition to 3D. First was Mario with Super Mario 64, and afterward it was finally time for Zelda to make the jump as well. Development on Zelda 64 began sometime around 1994, with this small teaser for the game being shown to the press at the time, showcasing Link fighting a Metal Link. Over time, the game would take shape and was slated to release for 1997 on the Nintendo 64 DD. So with that, the game was moved over to a regular cartridge, and even with the delay, the devs still weren't able to fit everything that they wanted into this game. They did have plans to still use the 64 DD to make some kind of expansion, but we'll delve into that whole mess in the next video. In November of 1998, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time would launch on the N64, and just like how Mario 64 was praised for being the best way to transition platformers to 3D, Ocarina of Time was praised for doing the exact same thing for its genre. In fact, Ocarina of Time is often regarded as one of the best games ever. You'll frequently see this game at the top of people's best games of all time lists. In 2011, a remake of the game was released on Nintendo 3DS titled Ocarina of Time 3D, and mostly served as a graphical upgrade with some improvements made here and there. And I'll tell you right now that if you're gonna play Ocarina at all, play the 3DS version or this nifty PC port via Ship of Harkinian or... Huh. Well, that is impeccable timing. Now, for the sake of consistency with the next game, I'll be playing the N64 original for reasons that I'll get into in that video. Ocarina of Time is often regarded as an all-time masterpiece by so many people. But first, let's get one thing straight out of the gate. There is no such thing as a perfect video game. And even if there was, even with the other versions here still present fixing some problems, there are still issues that I have with the core game here. So if you're willing to stick around, let's talk about why I feel that Ocarina of Time is far from a masterpiece. Our story begins in the Kokiri Forest, washed over by the Great Deku Tree. The Kokiri are this race of childlike forest beings, all of whom have fairies, except for one particular boy, Link. Speaking of Link, this is probably the youngest incarnation of the hero to date, clocking it at around 10 years old. One day, the Great Deku Tree senses an evil befalling Hyrule and instructs the forest fairy Navi to find Link and bring the boy to him, and Navi wastes no time waking up the to-be hero and getting him started on his quest to save Hyrule. After gathering some of the necessities to get Mido to piss off like a sword and a shield, Link and Navi arrive at the Deku Tree, who informs Link that a curse has befallen him and instructs Link to enter him and defeat the evil parasite within, which turns out to be Goma. When Link returns, the Deku Tree proceeds to deliver one hell of an info dump onto us. He tells us about how the land of Hyrule came to be from the three goddesses, who after creating the land, sky, and spirit, left behind the golden triangles, the Triforce, a holy object that can grant the wishes of anyone who touches it. And it just so happens that an evil warlock from the western deserts wants the Triforce and is the one who placed the evil curse on the Deku Tree. Unfortunately, the Deku Tree was doomed from the start and was destined to die from the curse. But before he passes, he bestows upon us the Kokiri Emerald, one of 3 spiritual stones, and tells us to seek out the Princess of Hyrule, as the wooden giant then dies before our very eyes. As we leave the forest, we're stopped by Saria, Link's longtime friend, who gives Link an ocarina to remember her by. And after that, we awkwardly stumble out of the forest. After crossing the barren wasteland that is Hyrule Field, we locate Princess Zelda, who tells us about Ganondorf, the King of the Gerudo, who we see swear his fealty to the King of Hyrule, but we and Zelda both know that it's just a ruse, and together we concoct a plan to gather the remaining 2 spiritual stones and stop Ganondorf from obtaining the Triforce. After learning Zelda's lullaby from her servant, Impa, we set off to collect the other 2 spiritual stones. Now, if you've played A Link to the Past, the quest for the 3 spiritual stones might sound identical to collecting the 3 pendants in that game. In truth, the structure of Ocarina of Time is very similar to Zelda 3. That's not a bad thing to say, by the way. In fact, it makes sense given the best way to transition Zelda to 3D was to follow the formula that worked best in 2D, and truth be told, I do think that formula still works well in 3D. Now, from here, the story takes a bit of a backseat to the gameplay, so why don't we take that time and start actually going over the gameplay?
Stop before you say something you might regret.
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, I thought, never mind that, but you never told me that you were looking at one of my favorite games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like top 5 for me.
Alright, well, I guess you can join for the rest of the video. So, in terms of control, Link has a full 360 degrees of movement as opposed to past games where he could only really move in 8 directions. You got your sword on B, R lets you raise your shield, A is your context-sensitive button allowing you to do stuff like read signs, talk to NPCs, grab stuff, climb stuff, all that sort of fun things, you know? In previous games, you only had 1 button to equip items to, except in Link's Awakening because it's special. Here, though, you have 3 equipment buttons thanks to the C buttons, with C up being reserved for the first-person view and talking to Navi. Speaking of Navi, I suppose I should actually talk about her. She mostly serves to give you pointers in your quests and can even give you info on enemies when you lock onto them. You know, I remember how people would always say, oh, Navi is so freaking annoying! But, like, is she really? I mean, yeah, sure, she's a bit loud, but she's just trying to be helpful. I like you, Navi, so know that you at least got 1 defender out there. Navi is also what is used in Universe to explain the Z targeting system, a new mechanic introduced to make sword combat more friendly in 3D. It's mostly a very intuitive system that allows for more combat moves like a side jump, backflip, and a jumping slash that deals a lot of damage compared to your other attacks. I gotta give Ocarina of Time props for this, given that not only is this system still in use in modern Zelda games today, but a lot of other action games today also use this system, like FromSoft's Soulsborne games. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though, as aiming is a particular sour spot that I have with this game. Aiming in first person with items like the slingshot is a massive pain, and I swear it's all because of the analog movement being overly sensitive to a point where it makes any target minigame a huge pain in the ass. Even in emulators, official or not, it's still very overly sensitive, and I understand that the N64's analog stick was very oddly designed and it has a much shorter range of movement as opposed to modern sticks, which can contribute to the oversensitiveness of it, but even on the original N64 with an original controller, I swear it's still a pain. You know, now that I think about it, that's not my only problem with control. It's not really this game's fault, but rather the bizarre N64 button layout. The C buttons don't really map to anything on modern controllers properly aside from the right analog stick, and that tends to be what most emulators do, even Nintendo's own emulators. This makes selecting items on the C buttons a bit of a pain sometimes, and don't even get me started with how this affects playing the ocarina, and that you'll try to be playing it and you'll accidentally go in a little slight direction and then you'll play the wrong note and fuck up the entire song. Yeah, that's right, you actually have to play the ocarina now, as opposed to Zelda 3, where you just press a single button to use it. I actually do like getting to play the ocarina manually, especially since if you know how to play it effectively, you can actually do some pretty cool shit with it. I've seen someone play Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, and that's pretty cool. You'll learn various songs to help you solve puzzles from all sorts of individuals across Hyrule, and thankfully there's still a lot to do across the land. You've been tasked with helping out the Gorons of Death Mountain and the Zoras of... wait, what? These are Zoras? I thought Zoras looked like the missing link. How the hell did they go from mystical fish creature to... You know what? I'm not even going to think about it too much. But yeah, something that I enjoy from previous games, which has thankfully been carried over to this one, is that as you progress and get more items, especially from the dungeons, more of the game will open up to you. The slingshot, bombs, boomerang, they all offer plenty of versatility for Link here and allow you to get various items like the returning heart pieces, equipment upgrades like a larger seed sack for your slingshot, and other items like bomb shoes, which I swear were only needed for like 2 puzzles in the whole game, or this game's side collectible, the gold Skulltula tokens. And yes, I pronounce them Skulltula. If that bothers you, eat my ass. Hidden all throughout the entire game are these goddamn golden spiders who, when defeated, will drop these tokens. There are 100 in total, and these can be found all over the place, on walls, in holes, under rocks, in dungeons, up my ass, inside a giant fish deity, and you might be wondering what the rewards for all of these are. Well, fortunately, you actually get some pretty good shit from these. You can get the Adult's Wallet and Giant's Wallet for holding more rupees, the Stone of Agony, which uses the N64's Rumble Pack to alert you when you're near a hidden secret. In the 3DS version, this was replaced with the Shard of Agony, which just gives you a visual indicator on screen. It all culminates at 50 tokens where you're given a heart piece, and unfortunately the reward for getting all 100 is very lame. It's just an infinite supply of rupees, and by the time you're actually able to get that last Skulltula, you'll already be gearing up for the final fight against Ganondorf, so it's a really shitty reward if you ask me. It should have been something cool, like maybe something to buff your attack. The way you select your items is through the pause menu, which on the N64 is kinda bad. Like, I get it, I understand why this menu's like this, I just don't really think that the way it's set up really works with a controller all that well. I was actually thinking about this, and it actually reminded me of the Xbox port of Morrowind and how that they had to redesign the menu to work on a controller, and both have the same problem of not really being intuitive for controllers, I would say. I know that something like Morrowind's PC menus wouldn't really work either, but there should have been some kind of better solution, yeah? Now, outside of all of that, this game actually offers plenty of side quests, like this masked salesman who definitely doesn't have ulterior motives, this woman who wants you to collect her cuckoos because she's allergic to— the fuck do you have cuckoos for then? All of this is connected together by Hyrule Field, which I'm sure was impressive in 1998. Nowadays, it is a large open area containing jack and shit. It isn't really helped by this asshole who likes to show up at the most awkward of times, Kaepora Gaebora. Ocarina of Time has a pretty slow text speed, and this fucker really shows that off in agonizing pain. I just want to get a move on, but this fuck-ass owl just shows up to exposit so much information that I just don't really care, and then he has the audacity, the nerve, to then make the default text option the one that will make him repeat everything he says. Shut up, Gaebora, shut up!
Not one for reading then,
I cannot quite vocalize just how much I despise Hyrule Field in this game. There's just nothing to do here aside from these occasional peahats that are more of a pest more than anything. It doesn't help that for the first half of the game, you have no means of faster travel. This means spending several minutes side-hopping across Hyrule if you're doing something that, say, requires you to go from one end of the map all the way to the other. Well, have fun, because you're going to be doing that for about 3 to 4 minutes.
Well, hang on there. Yeah, sure, Hyrule does take a while to cross, but it helps in giving you the feeling that you're going on this massive adventure across the country. Not to mention, at night you have the style enemies coming out for a brawl. It makes you feel so free to do whatever you want, explore the lands, dive into a lake. It's liberating, and the 3D view lets you see the crevices and caves that you just would never see when squinting down at Hyrule from above.
Okay, I get that you like it, but for me personally, it just makes me not want to play the game half the time, and I have put down Ocarina several times because travel just flat out sucks. At least the first 3 dungeons don't elicit that feeling. Actually, I really like these dungeons. Inside the Deku Tree is a strong first dungeon, probably one of the best starting dungeons in the entire series, and it makes sense because this is the first dungeon for the first 3D Zelda game, so it would need to be perfect to show players that they have nothing to fear in this new era of Zelda. Dodongo's Cavern and inside Jabu Jabu's Belly are the other dungeons that we can access right now, and both I feel are actually pretty solid. Although I do think Dodongo's Cavern is the weakest of the first 3 here. It just never really felt that interesting to me, aside from this part where you mass bomb this staircase to lower it. Jabu Jabu actually sees you explore a parasite-infested godfish, and you get to use the Princess of the Zora, Ruto, as a tool to advance through the dungeon. Eventually, you'll get both the Goron Ruby and the Zora Sapphire, meaning we are now in possession of all 3 spiritual stones. We return to Hyrule Castletown, but when we do, we see Zelda and Impa fleeing on horseback, with Zelda throwing us the titular Ocarina of Time. But soon after, we encounter Ganondorf, who sees us as nothing more than a mere child and writes us off as he continues his pursuit of the princess. After retrieving the Ocarina of Time and learning the Song of Time from this telepathic flashback, we enter the Temple of Time and place the 3 spiritual stones on the Pedestal of Time, which opens up the Door of Time, allowing us access to none other than the Master Sword, the blade that fucks shit up and acts as the doorway to the Sacred Realm. It seems, however, that we were being followed the entire time by Ganondorf, who now has unmitigated access to the Sacred Realm and thus the Triforce. When Link comes to, he finds himself in this pocket of the Sacred Realm protected by the Sage of Light, Rauru, who tells us that because of how young Link was, he was deemed not ready to be the hero of time and was kept knocked out in the Sacred Realm for 7 years. Link is pretty much a young adult now, although I won't begin to ask why and how he got those earrings and the tights. It's something I don't really want to think about. But to be fair, this is what I would say one of Link's most iconic designs yet, next to say the current day Breath of the Wild design. Rauru gives us our next objective: cross Hyrule, awaken the other 5 sages, obtain their medallions, and return peace to the land. He then gives us his medallion and returns us to Hyrule. Upon returning to the world of the living, we try to leave the temple when a random ninja shows up calling himself Sheik, a member of the Sheikah clan. Yeah, that's right, Zelda is now rocking ninjas and I am a-okay with that. Sheik tells us that we should head for the Forest Temple first, and to be careful as Ganondorf's rule has brought destruction to the land, and when we leave, we see that Hyrule Castletown is in complete ruins, left with nothing but re-deads. Then we leave Castletown and the rest of Hyrule seems perfectly fine. Okay, well there is some more blight going on here. Lake Hylia has been drained, the Gorons are about to become food for Volvagina, and Zora's domain is completely frozen over. But Hyrule Field and Kakariko Village? Perfectly fine! Even Lon Lon Ranch is fine, except for this dickhead Ingo took it over. I haven't really mentioned this place yet, but in the past, this is where you find Malon and Talon, the former of which teaches you Epona's song, and when you return here as an adult, you can actually use Epona to race Ingo for her, and I recommend doing that as soon as possible because having Epona makes crossing this desolate field so much more bearable. As an adult, there's actually so much more that you can do now, especially with the 7-year difference in time. Sure, Dompe the Gravekeeper died, but you can race his ghost to get one of the best items in the game, the hook shot. And I fucking love this thing, especially later on when you get the long shot for increased range. Just point at something that it can latch onto and whee! As an adult though, you can't actually use some of the items that you had as a child, so you'll need to find adult equivalents like the bow and arrow. At least you can still use your magic that you got from the Great Fairies, and no, I have no clue why they have Lara Croft hits, don't ask me, ask Shiggy. But I'll be honest, the only one of these spells that I really find that useful is Din's Fire because it's pretty much a close-range nuke. Eventually we reach the Forest Temple, and it's here where I think the mood and atmosphere of the game really shines. Up to this point, it felt like the game was wanting to go for this bright and uplifting childlike whimsy, but I don't really think it can pull it off that well. No, this game I think shines best when it's doing this moody, mysterious, dark, and sort of just a Forest Temple. Just what the Forest Temple shows off. That's the best way I can describe it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think as far as the N64 original goes anyway, this game can actually look pretty ugly by the standards of 1998. Hell, I think some games prior to this one looked pretty good. The textures aren't exactly appealing, and there is a lot of Z-fighting going on here, which is especially noticeable at higher resolutions. I don't know, if I had to compare it to, say, Mario 64, I just think that game looks better.
Oh, that's such a dumb comparison. Mario 64 didn't need to worry about these large, sprawling worlds. Of course, anything with a larger scale isn't gonna look as good.
Maybe Final Fantasy VII looks better.
That game relied a lot on pre-rendered backgrounds, which yes, Ocarina does use here and there, but it's mostly focusing on real-time rendered maps with clear detail. Even still, Ocarina's pre-rendered backgrounds look pretty good, I would say.
Like it'd make a difference on a CRT. At least the adult dungeons are still well designed. There's some mini dungeons that you can even tackle as well, like the Ice Cave or the Kakariko Well, which you have to do as a child. Something that you're told after clearing the Forest Temple is that by placing the Master Sword back on its pedestal, you can actually travel back to your original time, allowing Link to move freely between the two time periods. You gotta do this not only to access the Kakariko Well, but one of the other temples, the Spirit Temple, requires you to do one half as a child and the other half as an adult. You can even go back and get some items that you missed, like these magic beans, which are dumb.
No, they're not. Why can't you see the magic, the love that this game has inspired in so many around the world?
Maybe because I wasn't 6?
Maybe you sound like a prick.
Okay, let's act like adults here. What's wrong with me having some problems? I get that you love this game, but you gotta admit that it has some glaring flaws. Well, I did praise the child dungeons, and I do enjoy the puzzles and challenges offered in the adult dungeons. I feel that these drag on for way too long. The child dungeons, you could clear in about 30 minutes if you knew what you were doing, but I swear the 5 adult dungeons can take you like over an hour to clear, and that's not even counting the boss fights at the end of each of them.
I think that ultimately boils down to personal preferences. Some people, like me, don't mind dungeons going on for a little longer. I get your Sonic loving ass likes to get a move on, but I don't mind these brain ticklers. Except the water temple, that place is awful.
Not really.
Huh?
The Water Temple is infamous for several reasons. A lot of the corridors look the same, these markers that raise and lower the water level aren't exactly telegraphing what they do. You have to constantly pause the game to swap over to the iron boots, and underwater combat sucks. Here's the thing though, I never really understood the hate for this place. Maybe it's because I played the 3DS version first. The boots were made to be regular items, so you could just press a button to swap them on and off on the fly, and the temple's hallways were color-coded, and these markers now clearly show what they'll raise the water level to. Why don't we actually take this time to talk about the 3DS version? It's mostly a graphical facelift, but it does do a little more than make the game look and run better. First off, the game now runs at 30 FPS as opposed to 20, and several game-breaking bugs were fixed, although I never actually encountered any in terms of glitches, to be honest. Almost. You only have 2 item buttons now, but to make up for it, you have 2 digital item buttons on the touchscreen, and the Ocarina was also given its own dedicated button on the touchscreen as well. Text scroll is faster, a boss rush was added, the water temple was improved, menus were improved, and the Master Quest was added as an unlockable after clearing the game. So, Master Quest was pretty much what remains of that scrapped expansion Ocarina never really got. It makes the game more difficult and remixes the dungeons, and in the 3DS version, they also mirror the entire game, kind of like Twilight Princess on the Wii. It's cool that they added Master Quest to the 3DS version, since the only way to play it originally was through this bonus disc for the GameCube. While we're on the topic of other ways to play Ocarina of Time, how about the PC port put together by the lovely folks at Harbor Masters? It's a fantastic port of the N64 original that allows for button remapping, free cam, more item buttons on top of the 3 you'd normally get, and a built-in randomizer. What's not to love? That's not even mentioning that there's all sorts of quality of life improvements that you can toggle on and off at will. Also gyro aiming, which the 3DS version also has. After gathering all 6 medallions and clearing the 5 temples, we are now free to enter Ganon's castle and take the fight to the King of Evil. But first, we have to meet up with Sheik, who reveals quite a lot. When Ganondorf grabbed the Triforce, he only managed to actually gain the Triforce of Power, with the Triforce of Courage going to Link. The Triforce of Wisdom has found its home with Sheik, who is revealed to be none other than Princess Zelda, who kept her disguise to hide from Ganondorf. She gives us the light arrows and then is immediately, like clockwork, captured by Ganondorf, who challenges us to fight him at his castle. Should have kept on your fucking disguise, but hey, I know. Before that though, I do want to mention this game's score because it is admittedly pretty iconic and for good reason. Interestingly though, this game doesn't actually use the Zelda series main theme, so a lot of the music here is brand new stuff, save for Zelda's Lullaby and Kakariko Village, which returned from A Link to the Past. Let's get an unconventional one out of the way first. I really like the spooky and mysterious music that plays in the Forest Temple. Of course, there's also the Lost Woods, aka Saria's Song, and it's amazing as well. Lastly, I'll mention the theme for Gerudo Valley, which just... ooh. We climb up Ganon's castle and eventually find him, where he then challenges us to a lovely game of tennis. 15 love. It looks like that Ganon. Oh my god, did one of the opponents to shoot the other? Oh my good Christ, what a...
Well, you should probably cut the cameras now.
With Ganondorf defeated, Zelda is freed, but the tower soon begins to collapse, with the duo, plus Navi, making it out just in time as the tower crumbles to ruins. But it seems Ganondorf isn't done yet, since he uses the Triforce of Power as one final gambit. Ganon. Nothing else to it, just Ganon. And I think this is one of the most intimidating incarnations of the beast yet. You can't see him thanks to the dim lighting other than his large stature and glowing eyes. He manages to knock the Master Sword away from Link for the first half of the fight, and he deals so much damage. Fortunately, halfway through the fight, he goes down for a bit, allowing you to grab the Master Sword for round 2. Then after a blast of light from Zelda, Link is able to deliver the killing blow to the skull. The 6 sages then use their power to seal Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm for a while at least. Zelda thanks Link for his help and then uses the Ocarina to send Link back to his lost childhood. People all across Hyrule celebrate the fall of the evil king, as it is a happy time once again. Link returns the Master Sword to its home, and Navi then just leaves. Just like that, no nothing, no goodbye, just gone. We then get this scene where it's believed that it's Link informing Zelda of Ganon's future plans to have him arrested, and given future titles, yeah, I believe that. But with that, we can end our time-traveling adventure through Hyrule. Ocarina of Time is an interesting game from a historical perspective. I don't think it's this magnum opus, but I do like the game overall. That being said, A Link to the Past is better. You're the missing link to the past. Huh?
Oh, come on, CeeCee. Think about it. Maybe there's a reason that this game is viewed as one of the greatest games ever made. The freedom, the magic, breaking pots. This game just feels so satisfying to play.
Oh my god, it blew your socks off. I get that. But have you listened to anything I've said across this whole video? I'm sorry, but there are parts of this game that just simply are not fun.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Is not.
Is too.
You're dumb.
Screw you.
Blow me.
No thanks.
Damn it. Shut up.
Shut up.
You really want to do this right now?
You're damn right I wanna.
Okay, smarty pants. Then don't be shy. You wanna dance? Well, so do I. Now here's your chance to tell me why you love this game.
Well, where to start and what's the goal? It's games as art that touch the soul. You have no heart, so how can you speak of love?
That's bullcrap, and you know it graphically.
When
Ocarina was a tragedy. Do the textures cause the oppressive personality?
This is how
Cause
the
they're
future
literally
of
sad
games
to
could
see.
be.
They
to
took
live
that
inside
game
that
I
world
love so much
and explore the
twisted
land,
it
sword in
into
hand,
a beast.
be the
They
hero.
made it look all
That's
new and
what
strange.
we all
If there's one thing I
dreamed
hate, it's change. This
is
overrated
just
chore
nostalgia now.
with all its
You just
fanboy
weren't the proper
drones.
age.
What's
Nintendo
worse?
power
It
was
spawned a
scored
million
and high.
lame
Its pace
adventure
was taut yet fun.
clones.
A
This
story
is
that
your
grips
nostalgia
without
now.
relying on
If you
some
show
pre-rendered
it to
clips,
a child
it's a
today,
method that
they'll
led
ask
on
you
to
for a link to the past. It's much more fun to play. You won't disavow
to your heart.
this your sacredest cow.
Still know how
I don't
to
care, cause this
ends
ends
now.
Will you two stop your bickering? Why does it matter what each of you think about Ocarina? You're both people. Kind of. You both are gonna have different opinions on this game that came out, may I mind you, prior to both of you even being born. Of course you're gonna have different experiences with this game. CeeCee, you say Mario 64 set a standard for how games should be for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Kiki, how old were you when you played Ocarina?
I think I was 3?
Would you say that Ocarina set certain standards for how games should be for you then?
Yeah, I guess it did.
Then there you go. CeeCee, I don't think Mario 64 is this fantastic piece of game design, but do we argue about it? No. I know how I view that game is going to be the same as how you view it. And I'm glad that you love that game as much as you do. Same goes for you, Kiki, with Ocarina.
You're right. I'm sorry, Kiki. I never really knew how much you liked this game, and it was rude for me to kind of shut you down with your arguments. No, I was in the wrong. Of course you wouldn't view this game the same way as I do. You didn't play it until you were older. I should have listened to you. And besides, I guess after all is said and done, it would be a fool of me to tell you and other people what they can and can't love. And I would be a fool to do the same.
Alright, cool, you're both lesbians again. Now,
I'll get them. Kiki, you want to wrap the video up for me?
Huh?
Thanks.
Wait, I don't know how the hell you end. What do I do? God.
Like and subscribe for more. I think she's doing Majora's Mask next. Yeah, bye.